All right, today we're going to be talking about regions. Okay, that's our key term. Now, our essential question, I've kind of moved the order a little bit, but it's right here. It's your first question. The question is, what is a region? That's not the all-encompassing question, the essential question, but we're looking at what a region actually is, and then expanding on that in class, we're going to look at specific examples of regions. And you should have a good idea of that once the lecture is over. Now, a region is defined by a place united by specific characteristics. Okay? Now, it's important for you to understand what place is defined by. A place is a particular space with physical and human meaning. Okay, that can be a lot of different things. Physical and human meaning encompasses a lot of different areas. Human meaning can mean things such as culture, language, religion, encompassing a lot of other things, while physical meaning can be things like specific physical landforms, specific physical borders, those sorts of things. Now, there's two ways that regions can be defined. The first is a physical region, physical space. The second is a human region, human meaning. Okay, going back to the definition of place, that's how we're defining the different types of regions. The first type that we're going to look at is physical regions. Okay, these can be things that link them together with soil, vegetation, river systems, anything with a physical environment, that could be a physical region together. The next is a human region. That could be linkages such as language, religion, culture, those various elements that humans come to play with. But there are human regions that we are going to get at in a little bit. Now, you're about to see probably the best artwork you've ever seen in your life. There he is. That's pretty good, right? That is the extent of my artistic ability. Now, a formal region is the first type of region we're going to look at. We're going to look at three: formal, functional, and perceptual. The first is formal. Those are the only three things that we're going to focus on in religions today in this lesson. The first is formal. Now, when you think of the word formal, you might be like me and picture prom, where it's a formal atmosphere where you're supposed to wear a suit and tie. The guys are, at least. Okay, this is kind of a picture of me at prom. You can see, yes, I am bald in that picture. I didn't actually mean for it to be that way, but it did. Okay, I've got pretty big muscles right here. Obviously, that's me. And then a suit and tie. You may not be able to get that from that picture, but that's what I was getting at. Formal kind of goes along with prom because there's set rules in a formal region. Okay? There's got to be rules. There's got to be clear boundaries in a formal region. All right? These boundaries have to be proven boundaries. They can't be boundaries that are made up. They're proven. Everybody knows where they are. Another way of referring to formal regions that some of the other curriculum refers to it as uniform boundaries. Again, uniform boundaries reminds me a lot like prom. Specific set characteristics, formal regions. The same thing, right? Also known as uniform boundary regions. But for us, formal regions. That's what we're referring to them as. Now, a formal region could also be defined as what is produced there. All right, on the next slide, I'm going to show you some examples. But it's got to be proven. It's got to have formal boundaries. It's got to have clear boundaries. Okay, it's got set rules. But it could also be what's defined. Some examples of formal regions. We're still looking at the same subset of A. But some examples could be the Corn Belt, where corn is grown throughout the middle of the United States in the Plains region in places like Iowa and Illinois. It could be the Rust Belt in the north of the United States. Used to, there was a bunch of factories there that produced steel for like the war industry. And then when we needed that manufacturing, it kind of shifted away. And some of these factories that produce these metals have started to rust, literally. Okay, so it's these areas with these rundown factories in the United States. That is a formal region. We know where that is. Okay? It also could be climate zones. Zones where different types of climate are located. And when we get to Earth-Sun relationships, we'll get to the different latitude systems. And these different climate zones fit in these different latitude systems. And these different climate zones are examples of formal regions because when we look at a climatology map, we can prove where that climate zone is. Okay, the most obvious example of a formal region is country borders, like the United States. We can prove where that is. We've got oceans on both sides. That helps. We've got our border with Canada. We've got our border with Mexico. That helps. Proven regions, proven boundaries, just like a country border. Next type of region, the second type of region that we're going to look at is called a functional region. It's also known as a nodal region. This term comes from the human geography curriculum, but it kind of helps you remember what a functional region is. Yes, a functional region has to have a function and has to have a use, but what it's more commonly referred to as is a region that has a central point and then it's surrounded and linked together some way or another. Okay, central place, the surrounding area linked to it. So generally you have a center and then that center is connected somehow. Yes, this map has a function and a use, but it's that nodal region, that middle. Okay? Set of places with functional integration, that's a fancy way of saying it has to have a function, it has to have a use. Next slide is examples. Kind of feel like Vanna White here. And Vanna White, I just failed. Okay? Again, continuing with formal regions. An example of formal regions is the Fort Worth Dallas Metroplex. You've got the two cities, and now Arlington can be linked in there as well. But you've got the two nodal areas, and then they're connected somehow. So if you're looking at a map of the Fort Worth Dallas Metroplex, the function of that map could be the road usage. But you've got the centers of those cities, and then they're connected by the highway systems. All right? Another example would be a utilities map. You've got the center of that factory of where, for example, that water pump is. And then from that point, you've got the pipes that push that water all over the city. That's a functional map. You got the nodal region of where that pump is, and then you've got the pipes that connect it to a functional region. Okay? Could be electricity providers, where different types of electricity are. Could even be Pizza Hut delivery. That's my favorite example because I love pizza. Okay? For example, in Lubbock, you've got a bunch of different Pizza Huts. You can't call the Pizza Hut on the south side of town if you want them to deliver to you on the north side of town. You've got to call the Pizza Hut on the north side of town. And to know which one delivers to your area, it's a functional region map. The next time you go in a Pizza Hut place, look on some of the walls. They have where the different Pizza Huts deliver. Any pizza place, really. They have them a map of the city, and they have them colored to where they will deliver to. And you'll seem smart when you tell the person at the counter that that's a functional region map. And then the last region, this is our sixth board, is a perceptual region. A perceptual region is based off of perceptions about a place, opinions about a place. It's not proven, so it's not a formal map. Doesn't really have to have a function or a purpose, and it doesn't have to be connected in any way, so it's not a functional map. Okay? A region marked by unique human ideas, or, there's that word, perceptions. It could be emotions to the area. For example, we've got like the idea of the Deep South. Where the Deep South is, we know it's in the south of the United States, but there's no borders, there's no connections, and whoever you ask, that's going to determine where the Deep South is. Same thing with the idea of the Big Apple. Yeah, it's referring to the New York City area, but there's no apple outline. Okay, that's just a perceptual region about a place. The perceptual region about schools, for example, is like our school is the best and your school stinks. That's the end of the notes. If you have any questions, see you in class.